Well, Quentin, 33 years ago, being a bit of a fan of old movie magazines, I decided to start my own. And I started this one in Australia, and it was called Movie 73, and it changed its title every year. I ran it for 7 years while I was making my own movies and other people's trailers. And I think probably there are 2 extant copies of the very first edition around, and I would like you to have one of them.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. It has a nice picture of a man with a bloody face on the front.
Yes, right here at the...
So I felt that this would particularly appeal to you.
No, it does appeal to me quite a bit,
William
actually.
Atherton from Slaughterhouse 5.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And people said to me, why are you going to put blood on the front cover? No one's going to buy that. And I said, watch them.
It was Dead and Driving was the first time that I made a note to like, oh, who is this director? All right, this guy's great. All right, and then I realized, oh my God, that's the guy who did Escape 2000, known as Turkey Shoot, and I'll show you. All right, and so it was like, and oh, that's the guy that did The Dragonflies. That's the guy who did The Man from Hong Kong. And then I just started like going back and and checking out all your flicks. One of the things that I haven't seen The Quest yet, but I've had it for a while, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But the thing about it though is, it was Dead and Driving that made me like, wow, that's fantastic. Who directed this? And then only to realize that you had done movies I'd liked before.
I think one of the errors in judgment that I made as a sort of neophyte filmmaker was to believe that anyone can do stunts. And I did stunts, and I've been set on fire 7 times. And one of those occasions was to show George how you could be very safely set on fire. And so, how could he say no after that? And the Chinese crew were just looking at me in astonishment. Directors don't normally set themselves on fire unless they are stars of the film, like Wong Yu. And so we set him up for the fire stunt, and unfortunately he did burn a portion of his hand. So I regret that, and I shouldn't have done that. But this was kind of frontier filmmaking in Australia. We were all a bit sort of learning as we went. But it was very brave of George to do what he did, and he was good about it. When he got burned.
Well, John Woo, on his very first movie in America, Hard Target, did the same thing with Lance Henriksen. There's this magnificent sequence where they set Lance Henriksen on fire, and he actually is like, his coat is like completely on fire, and he's taking it off as he's delivering his lines and everything. And the fact that knowing that it's really happening, all right, you can't buy that thrill. You just can't buy it. All right? You can't create it. There's no special effect. That when they actually do it. No, well, you did a film that I love. It's actually one of my favorite Vietnam movies of all time. Is the Siege of Firebase Gloria, which is just wonderful. I even talked about it, I think, in Entertainment Weekly.
You did. Thank you very much for that.
And it was actually kind of funny because it was one of those things where it's like, I got a print of it like years ago and watched it and really liked it. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and then started diving back into Australian cinema again. And wanted to screen it, and I watched it with Jasmine, our mutual friend now. Yeah.
Though I've never met Jasmine. We have a phone and email relationship.
You guys are phone boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And so we watched it, and it was just terrific. And so then, like literally about like 2 weeks later, I do the interview with Entertainment Weekly, and they go, "So, is there any films you want to talk about that maybe we've never heard of that maybe we should?" And it was like 2 weeks ago I'd seen it, and it was very fresh in my mind, and I wanted to see it. As a matter of fact, I do.
Yeah, right? Well, thank you, Quentin. That was very good.
But it was great though, because actually it was the second time I'd seen it. All right, and it had been a long time had been in between, and it completely and utterly held up and delivered. And in fact, I even liked it better the second time. Well, one thing that's really also also special about Siege of Firebase Gloria is, okay, when you look at war films, there's war films, there's Vietnam films, all right, but if you look at a war film, there's all these, just like in horror films, there's subgenres inside of subgenres inside of subgenres, all right? There's a bunch of guys on a mission movie, there's this, there's that, and the other. Your film is like the battle movie. It's like the Battle of the Bulge or Waterloo or something like that. It's a battle movie, all right? And it's actually, and you guys didn't have that much time and you didn't have that much money and everything, but you make a hell of an impressive, magnificent battle film, all right? And I actually think probably the only one of its type for dealing with Vietnam.
Yeah. Every production that I worked on would always try and cooperate with other productions in sharing actors and sometimes sharing equipment. It was kind of, we felt God, we're so lucky to be making a movie.
Yeah,
And isn't it great? Australia's got a
Right,
film industry after not having one for so many years, because it had a self-supporting film industry in the 20s and 30s. It could recover the budgets of films,
Right.
but then the foreign-owned distributors bought up the theatre circuits.
Right, and that was
and
it.
then say, we'll make them, you'll show them.
Well, you know, it was funny because, let me bring up a film, I don't know if you've ever heard it or seen it or not, but, you know, in my looking through Australian cinema and trying to find this one and that one and everything, I came across a 16mm print of a film that is just fantastic. Me and Jasmine watched it. And it was like from the early 60s. It's called Four Desperate Men. And it stars Aldo Ray.
Oh, it's The Siege of Pinchgut.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, in America it was called the Four Desperate Men. And we watched it, and it is a fantastic action film, fantastic like heist thriller action film. Aldo Ray, who I've always loved anyway, is great in the movie. Everyone else are these terrific Aussie actors. I mean, some of the best location footage of Sydney ever.
Sydney Harbour is great. I mean, there's this little island in the middle, Pinchgut Island, and you know, that was a perfect place. 360 degrees of fantastic vistas. You can't go wrong. It's a pity it wasn't in colour, but it still worked great in black and white.
Oh yeah, and it was like, you know, I was like, oh my God, this is really an Australian film.
And I tried to remake it as The Siege of Sydney, where they had a nuclear device on the island. You know, I tell you, my sons are absolute, you know, they are slavish fans of Kill Bill.
Oh, excellent.
And Kill Bill 2. And I've now been watching it again as one whole movie. Are you planning to re-release it on DVD and narrate it as a whole movie?
Yeah, the thing, we actually screened for the first time ever when I was in Cannes. This last year I was on the jury. And we screened, they hadn't, Kill Bill 2 hadn't been shown in France yet, so we had a big Palais screening. But the last night of the festival, we put Kill Bill together as one movie, and we arranged it for that. So it was like it plays as one whole movie, and there's some scenes that are not in it, all right, that are in there's some scenes in it that are not in Volume 1 and Volume 2, and there's some scenes in Volume 1 and Volume 2 that are not in that, all right, to make it just play as one big movie. It has an intermission right in the middle of it, you know, intermission music, all right, the whole thing. And yeah, we'll be eventually, and that's also the Japanese version, which has stuff that was never shown in only shown in Hong Kong and Japan, that I made especially for them because they can handle it. And other people can't. And so so it's that version, all right, all together as one movie. So we're waiting kind of for everything to die down, and once Miramax disentangles themselves from Disney and have their new company, we're going to release Kill Bill, the full thing all together.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I look forward to see the scenes that you know, we didn't see.
Yeah.
Would you still go to black and white?
Nope. No, not in the Japanese version.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Japanese version, and we kept it in color. I can show that in Japan, and they will see it for what it is, the color red. All right. But already people talked about the blood in Kill Bill all the time. If I had not gone to, if I had kept it all in color, then that's all anyone would have talked about. Yeah. Is just, oh, it's so bloody, it's so bloody, it's so bloody. They still talked about that a lot anyway, but that really, you know, in Europe, and with the exception of Italy, in Europe and America, it's like, it's something they just can't, they wouldn't be able to see the movie. For the blood. And then the cool part about it is I kind of get to have my cake and eat it too, because the black and white looks really cool, all right?
You see, the MPAA, bless their little hearts, they took exception to the exploding head in Turkey Shoot, Escape 2000, and they demanded it be cut out. So New World dutifully cut it out of a print, sent it back, and were passed. And then the rest of the country played uncut. And then someone informed on them, and they had to withdraw these prints and cut these bits out. So I wanted to have the last word, so I put the exploding head on the drive-in screen in Dead End Drive-In.
Oh, excellent! Yes.
And it goes through with an R in America, no problem. So finally,
well, it's like it's once removed. All
yes,
right?
exactly.
It's just once removed.
Yeah.
Well, now let me ask you a question, because you worked with that whole shady New World company after Roger Corman sold it and everything. What were your experience with those guys?
Oh, shady. I mean, you see, the thing about Roger Corman is that he was a filmmaker. Yeah. You know, he had a passion for celluloid, and there wasn't a job on the crew he couldn't do.
Right.
And so when he took on a film for distribution, he would invest some passion into it. I mean, I remember when one of the last things he took on, I think, was Shogun Assassin. Lone Wolf and Cub compressed.
They did a great version of it,
too.
They
did a great version.
That version stands up
absolutely.
to this day.
And you know the ad line they wanted to use?
What?
Shogun Assassin, he'll kick your ass in. but no newspaper would print it.
Right.
So I don't know. Oh dear. But Corman, he loved film so much that he would not let you down.
Yeah.
He would get the best. He would squeeze as much out of it as possible. These guys were just number crunchers. They were lawyers.
We met, like 6 years ago, or very briefly at a little cocktail kind of party for just a couple seconds, actually.
It was when Mira Sorvino.
Exactly. Yeah, and you had just directed her dad in a film.
That's right, in Escape Clause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And but we met each other in passing, kind of thing, and then but it was like we didn't really have a relationship when at the Kill Bill premiere, all right, in Sydney, when I dedicated the screening to you, and it was just truly because of your work, all right.
Thank
and
you.
I liked it, and I wanted to shine a light, all right, on and I thought Kill Bill was the perfect movie to do that with, all right, to Australia's own history of genre filmmaking, in which I consider you the leader. Yeah. All right, of that. And so, what did you think about? How did you hear about it? All right.
Somebody called me and said this happened, and then sent me a Sydney Morning Herald article that in which a somewhat sort of snooty critic had sort of interviewed you and thought, but the name I was expecting to hear, Peter Weir, Gillian Armstrong, but the name I heard was Brian Trenchard-Smith, who's probably had an all right average career somewhere, but you were a big fan, and it was.
I love.
It was written in mocking terms.
Yeah, but that was the funnest part about it, actually, after doing that and doing press and everything, and them asking. I love to shut those guys down.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
They would ask it, and I would shut them down.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
I would, they would have to acquiesce. All right. At least as far as at least as far as my opinion was concerned, there'd be no changing of it, and then I would sit there and defend each point, all right, point by point by point.
That's very kind. But you love film. I mean, your celluloid runs in your veins.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's always good to meet a kindred spirit.
Yes, I agree.
Because I would pay to direct, but happily they're still paying me.
Yeah, right.